more so now than at any other time in our lifetimes, it is incumbent upon us and imperative that we stand with our ally Israel, not just in words, but also in deeds. In today's video, I know there's a lot of you out there that disagree with this. You have all sorts of made-up, make-believe notions about it not being real Israel or Star of Remphan or all this other nonsense. Well, I'm going to debunk all that. I'm going to show you actual sound biblical doctrine that proves this beyond the shadow of a doubt, that we have to stand with Israel or we're going to be delivering ourselves into bondage. Make no mistake. We're going to start with 3 quotes that I think universally everyone could agree with, regardless of whether you're a Christian or not. These are, of course, screenshots from the series Game of Thrones. I know it's Hollywood, but the wisdom stands. On the left, a wise king, or even a wise man knows what he knows, and also what he doesn't know. See, this is a call to attend unto wise counsel. It's not something the young do very well, but as we age, we realize, wow, we don't know as much as we think we did. The older you get, the less you know. And that's why it's important. That's a biblical sound principle, and it's a sound piece of advice, even if you're not a Christian. Now, in the upper right, what we don't know is what usually gets us killed. Historically, that's been very true. Things that people were unaware of were a far more greater threat to them than what they knew. For example, who is more dangerous? The man who stands in front of you with a dagger that you see coming at you with a dagger, or the one behind you you don't even know is there? Of course, it's the guy behind you that you don't even know is there that's going to stab you in the back. You can have a gun in your hand all you want. You don't see it coming. And then the final piece, when you know what a man wants, you know who he is, and then how to move him. Now, the important piece of that advice is the contrary to it. It's the opposite. When you don't know what a man wants, you have no idea who he is and no idea how to move him. Now, we're going to put all 3 of these together with a few more, and we're going to show something about Hamas, Hezbollah, ISIS, and the Islamic Jihad, and prove this isn't about Israel. This is about world domination. Israel is just the cloud that they're using to cover your eyes to what their real goals are. Real quick, as always, biblical value, express gratitude. Thank you to everyone who continues to join us over at the Florida Monkey Patreon channel. A lot of you have filed in lately. God bless every one of you. You are making a difference, more so than what you know. The censorship, and we're going to talk about that today too, by the way. See, the original censors, the original people who put the tape over your mouth and said you couldn't speak and have your own opinions, wasn't the left. It wasn't big tech. It was Islam. You think there's free speech in Islam? Think again. If you'd like to join us over at the Florida Monkey Patreon channel, it's only $1 per month, even less if you sign up for an entire year, fully refundable, first 90 days, no questions asked. Love to have you over there. Makes a huge difference, and believe me, the video is very different. With a private server, Vimeo, we can take the gloves off, even more so than you can at BitChute or Parler or Rumble or whatever it is over there, Gab and Telegram. You see, those aren't private servers. You see, Google can go look at those. And Google can trace you and then find you and censor you. Vimeo is a private, have to pay for server. They can't. They can't get into it unless they would pay, and they don't. So, anyway, let's get to the meat of today's video. Now, I'm sure this is going to surprise some people. Hamas leaders surprised by U.S. going into battle. Pardon me. Senior official says militant group didn't expect attack on Israel to prompt strong response from Washington. Now, you'd have to think, wow, wait, what? Ali Barke says the massacre of unarmed Israeli civilians was a, ready for this, quote-unquote, defensive operation in response to Israel going after their civilians. No. Crimes of occupation. You see, he tells the truth here. Just by existing to Islam, Israel is committing a crime just by existing. Just by existing on land that is historically theirs. Hamas had admitted surprise that its brutal attack on Israel this month prompted a muscular U.S. response, with Washington deploying carrier strike groups, air defense systems, and thousands of troops. They didn't expect much of a response from America. An Israeli response? Yes, we expected that, Barak has said from his office in Beirut, but what we're seeing now is the entrance of the U.S. into the battle, and this we didn't count on. Now, you might have to ask, why? Why? We've covered all of the assets that are over there. U.S. entering battle in Gaza. Washington has deployed forces across the Middle East. Why? What didn't they know? Remember our quote? The thing that we don't know is what gets us killed. Guess what they didn't know? This is what they didn't know. Had they known this, they might have thought twice. Now, I know a lot of you are shaking your heads. I know a lot of you are not fans of Kamala Harris, of Joe Biden. But the first in line to the presidency, Kamala Harris, is married to a man who is a 60-year-old, 59-year-old Jew. Conservative, incredibly conservative Jew from New Jersey. Matawan, Old Bridge Township. These are the old school blue dog conservatives. He has the ear of the president. And believe me, this man is a trained lawyer. Quite a good one. Believe me, this is what they didn't count on. If the reason we're doing what we're doing is because this guy is in the ear of Joe Biden. Make no mistake. Now, there's more to it than that. You see, there's those out there who want to call, poor Palestine, poor Palestine. You see, hold on, let me see if I can find it here. Hold on. There's another quote from Game of Thrones. A lot of wisdom in that series, by the way. When you tear out a man's tongue, you are not proving him a liar. This is lower right, I'm reading from here. You're only telling the world that you fear what he might say. Now, I'm sure a lot of people would agree with that. Oh my God, since 2020, all the censorship about COVID, all the censorship about the laptop and all this other stuff. All that big tech censorship, right? Well, guess who the original censors were and are? That's right, Islam. See, you're not allowed to speak against Islam. There's no free speech. There's no First Amendment in Islam. There's no Second Amendment in Islam. There's no amendment of any kind in Islam. There's no even concept of liberty in Islam. Period. You see, people forgot this. This is who you're standing with if you're standing with Palestine. Exterminate those who slander Islam. Massacre those who insult Islam. Europe, you will pay. It doesn't matter where they go. This is what happens. Rise up, establish the Sharia. Islam will dominate the world. Behead those who insult Islam. But this is what they show you. This is why you think Israel is so evil and so bad. A torchbearer of peace, tolerance, and harmony. Dr. Zahid Iqbal. You know what Dr. Zahid Iqbal immediately said after being announced that way? Depicting the Holy Prophet Muhammad in insulting ways cannot be justified under the banner of free speech. Freedom of speech is a fundamental right, but this right is not absolute. How many people have we heard say this now about your gun rights not being absolute either? That no right is absolute. That they can, when the government deems it necessary, or in this case, the theocracy deems it necessary, they can take away any right they want. They can take your life if they want to in Islam. Now, continuing the idea. You see, as Christians, we were brought up to believe what is related here on the left. You think my life is some precious thing to me? That I would trade my honor for a few more years? You grew up with actors. You learned their craft. You learned it well. But I grew up with soldiers, learned how to die a long time ago. We grew up knowing that what can you do but threaten me with heaven? Remember the song by Vince Gill? Threaten me with heaven. Take my life. You see, this is something else that they don't get about Christian moral value. They think they threaten our lives and that we don't have our reward waiting in heaven. You see, their reward is 72 virgins. Those of us who've put away the flesh have no use for something that the minute you touch it, it becomes valueless. Let me say that again. You see, they're promised 72 virgins, all these Islamic martyrs. But what they don't realize is the minute they touch that virgin, she's no longer a virgin, is she? So the minute you touch the thing that is your reward, it disappears before your eyes. Let that soak in for a minute. But Arya Stark, the last one here, leave one wolf alive and the sheep are never safe. I think a lot of people would agree with that. You leave one wolf alive and the sheep are never safe. Now, here's the analogy that's going to make a lot of people mad, but it's exactly right. Who remembers the Black Death? Who remembers the Bible also saying, come out of her, my people, that ye receive not of her plagues, as in the Black Death? Well, what do we know about how the bubonic plague was transmitted? You see, the rats in their bloodstream had the bacteria. They were, yes, carrying bubonic plague. But it wasn't rat bites that transmitted the virus. You see, the fleas would get on the rats. And then they would drink the blood of the rat. And then they would also go bite humans. Now, a flea bite won't even wake you out of a sleep. A flea bite won't even wake you out of sleep, but you'll get the bubonic plague. Now, what does this have to do with anything? Well, here's the analogy. You see, the Palestinians, they're the rats. They're the rats, and incubating inside them is the plague of Islam. Now, the Palestinians can say, well, I'm not biting anybody. I'm not biting anybody. I'm not transmitting it. But you see, they have fleas. And there's wherever you have rats, you will always have fleas. And the fleas, in this case, upper right, are Hamas, Hezbollah, ISIS, the Taliban, Islamic Jihad. You see, and they're going to drink the blood. They're going to drink the blood of the Palestinian rat, which carries in it the bacteria that is Islam. And then they are going to, secretly, all over the world, transmit this plague to people. And this is how they use you. This is how they abuse you to make you think that Israel is your enemy. Because Israel's blaming the rat. And you're sitting here saying, it wasn't a rat. There are no rat bites on Israel. There are no rat bites ever. They're just oppressing and it's apartheid. Baloney. It's right. There are probably no rat bites. There's flea bites. And there's flea bites all over the world. I point you to Dearborn, Michigan. To Dearborn, Michigan, where the rats, the peaceful Islamists that we just allowed to come and colonize, the peaceful Islamists, see, they brought with them their fleas. And now what are we seeing? What are we seeing? Don't believe me? Ask Paris. Ask Paris now about their actual infestation of bed bugs that was brought to them by the migrants out of Syria and out of everywhere in the Middle East that they allowed to come in and destroy their culture and destroy their lands. Paris resident feels like a plague victim as bedbug infestation crawls into public spaces. More blood drinkers. More blood drinkers. Now, if I had a choice between having a second or third weapon, ballistic weapon, or having this kit that the Patriot Nurse is putting out, I'd have 2 of those kits and just 1 weapon if it was up to me. I would never not have a ballistic weapon. That would be silly. But if you have 2, 3, 4 ballistic weapons, I would get rid of 1 of them or 2, and I'd get some of these kits that she's selling right now online. Because the day is coming when you are going to be facing an enemy that isn't going to be something you can shoot. It isn't going to be something you can deal with. And believe me, there are people in Paris right now, they won't even go to a hospital. They won't go to a movie. They won't go to people's houses. They won't go anywhere because the infestation is so bad. See, but it was all based on lies. It was all based on lies. You know what the big lie that I hear, one of the biggest ones I hear is? But the Bible says the Star of Remphan, the Star of Remphan. And did you hear what God said about the Star of Remphan? Is a Wiccan holiday marker. Basically, it points at the 8 different holidays of the year, including Christmas, Easter, Halloween, spring, the arrival of spring, high summer, all of these things. It's an 8-pointed star associated with the Roman god Saturn and the Babylonian goddess Ishtar. See, we're coming up on one of those Wiccan holidays. It has nothing to do with the Star of David. It has nothing to do with the shield of David, the Magen David, the shield of David. Nothing to do with it. The Star of Remphan is an 8-pointed star of witchcraft. That you believe it's the star is ridiculous. We have 55-pointed stars on our flag here. We have 50 of them, and they could be associated with pentagrams. I could make an argument against that. I mean, it's just make-believe nonsense. But it's real simple. It's real simple. And you can do the logic in your head. If you got rid of Hamas tomorrow, but left the Palestinians, got rid of every member of Hamas, in 15 years, you'd have Hamas again. There'd be an interlude of peace. But you'd have Hamas again. If you got rid of Israel, you would immediately have an Islamic caliphate through all of Palestine. You think that's, you ever hear the quote, oh, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free? Do you think the Islamic caliphate, you see, the Islamic caliphate would say, oh yes, everybody's free to worship Islam the way that we tell them to. That would be their definition of freedom. But it wouldn't be a free place, would it? Would it? You see, you get rid of the Palestinians, and you get rid of Hamas, you get rid of the rats, and you get rid of the fleas, and then you'll have peace. At least inside of Israel. But what do we know? They're surrounded by rats and fleas, aren't they? See, until Islam is exterminated from this world, they're going to try to dominate the world, just like rats do. What do you know about rats in your home? See, there's a lot of cartoons out there where you see the little mouse hole in the baseboard and everything. Oh, it's so cute. Oh, look. And then you go, of course, the cartoons would have you zoom into the little hole. Of course, they've got a couch or a chair and a little mouse sitting by a fire reading a newspaper and all this. Oh, it's just members of the family. What do you know if you allow vermin in your home? First, there'll be one, and then there'll be more. And then there'll be filth, and there'll be bugs, and there'll be fleas. And then you have a problem. Even if you're never, and pay attention, please, with respect, even if you're never bitten by the mouse, even if you're never bitten by the rat, you're going to suffer what it brings. You're going to suffer what it brings. That's what the Bible says. Come out of her, my people, that ye not suffer of her plagues. This is why we have to stand with Israel right now. This is what they would say if the mainstream media would allow them. But they don't. Right now. Hamas has made a fatal miscalculation about the United States. But make no mistake, this won't be the end of it. And Israel knows it. It's even said in this article that, let's see if I can find it here. Baraka acknowledged, this is the leader of Hamas, acknowledged Hamas's assault would not have been successful without the help of our allies, Iran and Hezbollah, but said no one beyond Hamas's military wing knew about the attack. You see, that makes perfect sense to me. That makes perfect sense to me because the Iranians and Hezbollah knew who the second, I guess they refer to him as the second gentleman, is. And they knew, you know what, if we push this too far, we're going to lose control of the narrative. We're going to lose control of the fake, false, lying narrative that the Palestinians are just poor, put upon innocent people. And they have. They've lost control of the narrative. And that's why we're in the war. And that's why it's important to understand the truth of what's really going on. If you don't stand with Israel, this is who you stand with. I want to say this again. If you don't stand with Israel, this is who you stand with. You're standing with these people. There's a story out today of a kid now that they're putting in a box and burying because he ran sideways of the Iranian morality police. You know, I didn't bring up any pictures, but how would you like to hear about your maybe your daughter was at the beach with some friends, and the morality police were combing up and down the beach, and her suit was deemed a little bit too revealing, and so they snagged her up, threw her in a burqa, and beat her with canes without your permission or knowledge before you even knew about it. You see, these people would justify it. You know what they would say? Her freedom to be out running around in a bikini or whatever didn't override the right of the men at the beach to not be tempted, to not, the stumbling block. Oh, that's right. The stumbling block people. See, she was being a stumbling block to weak men, so therefore that's why she deserved to be beaten and or put to death. So choose carefully. You don't get to stay out of this one. Believe your lies about peace, tolerance, and harmony all you want, but it doesn't change anything. Trust me. There are going to be weapons we need. There are going to be weapons we need to fight what's coming. And what the Patriot Nurse is showing in this bag right now, which you can find on her website, on her channel, is going to be just as important as any ballistic weapon. Ask anybody who lived through the Black Death. Because it's coming. Make no mistake, it's coming. They're not going to stop. They're not going to stop until we stop them. They're not going to stop until we are honest enough with ourselves to realize and say, you know what? This is the case. In order to make sure that we don't have fleas out there transmitting diseases, we're going to have to get rid of the rats. So I'll leave it there. God bless. Thank you guys so much for your support. I very, very much appreciate it. Would love to have you at the Patreon channel. It would make a huge difference. Pray for each other. Pray for me. I'll pray for you. Lift each other up. God bless. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you guys next time.